Kunal, can you hear us? Yeah. Hi, Kunal.
Hi, Jiten.
Yes, you came exactly on time. We'll just get started. So it's almost 6 p.m. So thank you so much, everyone. Can you hear us? Okay. Okay, so it's almost exactly 6 p.m. So thank you so much, everyone. Again, so another thing we really want to get right is to start events on time and finish on time. So 6 p.m. So one more event getting started on time. So I'm really happy about that. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. I'm Jatin. I'm the co-founder of eChai.Network. We host engaging startup networking meetups in 25 global cities in 15 countries. And earlier we used to do a lot of physical meetups. Now everything has moved online. And since as it has moved online, it has opened up some newer opportunities for us there where we can bring in all the awesome speakers that you are seeing on screen together, joining us from all different interesting cities. Uh, so friends, I'll just do a couple of housekeeping announcements for everybody. Right now, we'll have some friends who are live with us on Zoom. So those who are live with us on Zoom, probably you'll be able to use some emojis or you can mention in the chat that, in case if you want to ask any questions. And then we are live streaming it on all our social media platforms. So those of you who are watching on our social media platform, in case if you have any question, you can ask in the chat or a comment. We'll take up some of those questions in the second half. If you're able to ask a very specific question, those of you who are live on Zoom, probably I can allow you to speak up actually, if your question is very clear. Else I'll just read out your questions to our panel. So we are just kickstarting 2021 series of startup growth panels with the EdTech. And EdTech has really boomed. And a lot of people have read that a lot of people have made a lot of money. So we want to see that in all the panelists, how much money they made through the EdTech boom in the country. But thank you so much, Saurabh, Kinar, Kunal, Binayak, Sharad, and Gopi for joining in. So best part, like the most important part of this panels is that, all the awesome speakers like you accept our invites and commit your 1 hour to join us and share your insights with us. So really, thank you so much for that. What we will do is that we'll just get started with the brief introduction. So each of the speaker will introduce about themselves for 1 or 2 minutes about their background and about their firm, and then we'll get started with our discussion. So thank you so much, everyone. Again, if this was a physical meetup, I would have asked everybody to clap louder. So it creates a good vibe. We'll not be able to match what we are able to do in person meetings, but we'll try to do something well in online meetings also. So thank you so much, everyone. Again, Saurabh, if you can just briefly tell us a little more about your background and about WinUall.
Sure, Vinayak. Thank you so much for inviting me to this awesome meet. And yeah, to get started, I'll briefly introduce myself. As you know, my name is Saurabh Vyas, and I am one of the co-founding members of WinUall. Before founding WinUall, I actually worked for many years in the industry, which is not typically the case with a lot of tech founders. So kind of an aberration here. So I actually graduated back in 2007 and then did my MBA from MDI Gurgaon in 2010, post which I worked in multiple companies, including Times Internet, Citibank, and my last work was with Boston Consulting Group, where I used to head their people analytics practice globally. This was the time when life was quite easygoing in that sense that you settle down in a company for a long period of time, and this is where Ashwini came in, and he kind of pushed me towards the startup journey, and we both got together. And I found the vision really compelling. So his vision and to which I aligned like really well was that we need to actually provide tools and technologies to teacher to coaching institutes who can actually make use of technology to teach in a better way. Right now what is happening is there are like two sides of it. Either people are teaching completely offline, and this was before COVID, of course, or people were just using certain apps to learn online. But there was like the right kind of blend which was needed, that empowering a teacher or a tutor to help student do better, and eventually, I mean, helping them to earn more also through the same process was something that he had in mind. And I aligned this with this vision really well, because I've seen the same thing happening on the corporate side also. Corporates always had like access to a lot of e-courses, right? I mean, every company used to spend like billions of dollars on training, but then impact was always like not really measurable. So we felt that we could change this, at least in coaching industry. And this is where we two came together and started working together. And since then, we have come a long way from 2 people to now currently 50 odd people in the company. And majority of it has actually happened in like last 4 months or so. So
Oh,
quite incredible journey it has been.
awesome.
Uh, Sorry for taking a lot more than you probably intended.
And when did you start? When did when you all started?
WinUall started in 2019,
Okay,
and yeah.
awesome. Thank you so much, Saurabh. Kinder, if you can briefly tell us about your background and about Knorish.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me here, Jatin, and good to see all the other members and speakers here. So, quickly introducing myself, me and my co founder started our first company from the campus of Newcastle University back in 2008. And since then, we have kind of launched two other companies. And this Knorish, which is our current venture, was particularly launched in April 2018, the paid product beta. So we kind of picked up a lot of growth on the platform in the lockdown period, and we raised our first institutional round of funding in 2019. So the idea basically was that there are tons of content creators like dance teachers, coaches, consultants, people who are celebrities, influencers, and content can be monetized in multiple ways, and our platform gives them an avenue to monetize it in the form of courses or just membership sites, any possible way they want to build their entire academy. So our platform gives them the entire ecosystem. We've onboarded close to 14,000 academies since the April month this last year. And we were just at about 400 odd academies at that point of time. So there's been major growth. We were just about 4 or 5 members at that point of time, and we've grown on to become a 25-member team now and hiring rapidly. Even currently, we've had celebrities like Sanjeev Kapoor, the master chef, join our platform, to several celebrities, niche influencers, and people like that. So it's been an incredible journey. I think EdTech has the real potential to impact lives around the world. And I think the pandemic has proven to be an opportunity to really amplify the impact. So thank you so much. I think I'll kind of finish there.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Kinder. Sharad, if you can tell us about yourself and Tinkle.
Yeah, Jatin. So basically, hi everyone. I and my co-founders started this company in 2015, Tinkerly. We were called Srijna and earlier then we rebranded last year to Tinkerly. Tinker is the word suggest. It's a combination of tinker plus ly, which means like you are playing with something, you are doing something which is unstructured. So our idea is that we make learning more fun and interesting and especially towards the subjects of STEM like science, technology, engineering, maths in a K-12 level. So school-going kids. Interestingly, we work with schools as well as the students directly. COVID helped us to prepone our plan and go into consumer earlier than as we expected. But we have a solution where we help schools to set up large STEM solutions, where STEM labs we established, tinkering labs we established. We have close to 250 plus schools where we have worked across India. And in COVID, before COVID, we were doing a online content platform for STEM learning for all K-12 students, where they can learn robotics or IoT, AI, etc., free of cost. But then we realized that we can make more structured courses. One interesting gap we realized is that our learning at home was considered only at online learning. This is the myth which we wanted to change, that learning at home can also be offline and hands-on learning. And that's how we design courses where you can learn online while you are getting some offline material, or kits in our case that can be delivered at home. So we design courses for students of age 6 to 16, and that is something, an excitement COVID has gave us and new energy that has come around. And yeah, so we have a mixed experience. School side had a bit low, but the consumer side had a very good emergence. That's how it is with us.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sharad. Binayak, if you can tell us a little more about you and ThinkZone.
Yeah, hi Jatin. Hi everyone. My name is Vinayak Acharya. I'm the founder of ThinkZone. We are a social enterprise which works towards improving the educational outcomes of children from underserved communities using a tech plus touch model and activity-based methodology. We work with Anganwadi workers, primary school teachers, and also with community educators who in turn use our process, our pedagogy, our technology platform to implement education programs in their community. So as such, if I may say, might say with the very simple definition of EdTech, which is happening and which is fortunately, unfortunately, focusing more on cities and to the urban middle class population. We are a enterprise which is working in the villages and basically in rural India. So we started in early 2015, and we are basically operating in the state of Odisha right now. So the model that we work is we engage basically community educators who happen to be work with partner schools and partner Anganwadis. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Binayak. Kunal, if you can tell us a little more about you, about Logic Roots.
Sure. Thank you so much. My name is Kunal Gandhi. I'm one of the founders of Logic Roots. So what Logic Roots does is we make social math games. And these are board games, not digital games. These are board games. And the idea is simple that, I don't go for a workout. If I have shoes, I have a gym nearby, I know workout is good for me, but I still don't go there. But if I have a friend who joins me, then workout becomes easier because, friends pull you in. Similarly, education or learning is a problem not of content for us. For most of the kids, it is not that they lack books or pencils or something. At some sections do, but most kids don't. They lack the motivation to do it, and hence we say, okay, let it be social, social along with the teacher, social along with the friends, social along with their parents or something, and that's what we make. So we make these board games which are targeted, designed as per the curriculum, so Common Core and Singapore Maths guidelines. And right now our main markets are US, UK, Canada, and China. India is very small for us, unfortunately. I mean, I don't know, that's how it evolved. It's not that we didn't want to focus on India, but that's how it evolved. US suddenly picked up for us, and so all our energies and people and concentration went there. And gradually the other markets around, so UK and China and everything, just fell in place because we were present in US. So that's what we do. We target kids age 3 years to 12 years. And COVID period, of course, has been good from the business point of view, but given that we make physical games, we were hit in a way because we had supply chain constraints. The shipping lines were stopped, or some of the factories had to stop in India, or some of the factories in US and so on had to stop. So that kind of constraint hit us. But otherwise, I think we are doing much better than what we did last year or the year before and so on. So we are on a good growth curve. And my personal background, I and my co-founder, we were batchmates from IIT Bombay. And I went on to do my management education from IMA. I was working with a consulting firm, McKinsey and Company, for several years before I decided to quit, come back to India and start Logic Roots. So that's a little bit of background.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Kunal. Gopi, if you can tell us a little about you, about 361-degree Minds.
Sure. Hi, Jatin. Hi, panelists, and hello to everyone who's present in the webinar. Wish you all a very happy and safe New Year. Hope 2021, with the presence of vaccine, gets the better of each one of us. A minute or so on the company. 361-degree Minds started out as a learning research company. So we spent a significant amount of time using behavioral sciences, studying how adults learn. We spent a lot of time on the field, on the ground, understanding what makes them learn, what makes them apply. This was in the area of adults. So over a period, we gathered a whole lot of principles, what makes an adult learn better. And that's when we started working with corporates as our first pilot case. We started working with enterprises in India, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, some in the US as well. We were a massive success story because our programs with the behavioral principles embedded in it was delivering a huge ROI for the enterprise. So we were doing it for a while. We couldn't scale it because it was very instructor dependent. So, and that's when we put our shutters down and we took a sort of a 1.5 years of sabbatical and built a platform, integrating those behavioral principles. I said, okay, let's find a way to scale it. And after that, we are not in control of the journey. The platform took us to their own path, much like the way Kunal said, I didn't not mean to sell in India. It just happened. So post the platform developed, it just took on its own. So currently using that platform, we are doing three things. One is we offer undergrad, postgrad certificate program for career seeking adults in collaboration with universities. So that's one we do. Second, we work with enterprises and develop skill development, behavioral development, leadership development program for corporates. That's the second. So these two are my principal revenue pattern. Third, recently we started piloting in a few states in India, training teachers. So the bulk of all my revenue comes from these three activities: for students, higher education in collaboration with universities; for employees in collaboration with the enterprise and with government. Recently, about a couple of years back, we started a AI lab, which is working in the area of some cutting edge behavioral sciences, and those are not revenue wise. It's in the pre-beta stage. This is what we're doing. A little bit of a personal info. I, along with a couple of my batchmates from BITS Pilani, we founded this company, and we three are still driving it. I'm massively interested in India and cricket, US politics, Indian politics, and sociology. These are my interests. Over to you, Jatin.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We have some questions coming in, which we'll take after the question that I would wanted to ask everyone. So one of the key topic of this session is to talk about startup growth. In all of your journey, you can talk about one specific milestone or a key impactful decision that you took that really put you in a very amazing journey. It could be any one specific anecdote about anything about what happened at your company or a strategic decision that you took. So one by one, we start with Kinner this time. Kinner.
Hey, thanks. So I think one of the key decisions that I would highlight here that we had to take is in terms of growth. So, the common knowledge, what we've figured out is that common knowledge about any topic is not what gets you to go the extra mile that you really want to kind of get to. So when you talk about growth and we talk about performance marketing, like adapting or utilizing platforms like Facebook, Google Ads, or other usual growth hacks, it doesn't work really well to make your company that makes its global mark. So what we learned is that decisions to hack right from day one, look at things that commonly are not available with the agencies, the performance marketing groups, or digital marketers in the so-called digital marketing world. You'll have to look beyond. So I think those decisions to look beyond and talk to people who had been successfully hacking their path proved to be a really, really key thing for us, and I would give this advice to any startup looking at growing their company is that talk to people who've been there and done that. And I think that's the biggest hack or the formula that you could use for sure. So when you're talking about growth, go to people who've they could be in the newspaper, they could be someone that you can't reach to. Make a list of people, and everything is a sales funnel for us. So if you feel like you wanted to talk to a Hollywood celebrity, maybe once you reach to 30, one will talk. Maybe the funnel would be larger. Once you talk to 70, one will talk, but there is always a funnel. It doesn't matter what you're trying to do. So go and talk to people who have done that. And I think that that should be done from day one rather than failing and then going back and trying to retweak, because in startups, mistakes can be costly. The life cycle is super short. You get money to run some experiments and you don't have unlimited supplies to keep failing all the time. I think once you raise or you're trying to raise, you are on a clock. So that's my quick take here.
Well said. Thank you so much. Sharad, any one impactful decision that you took?
In terms of us, I would say that product development decisions, one of the product development decision was something that I say was a really interesting one. Fortunately, since we were working with the schools, we were setting up slabs that was constituting around 250 different type of kits or equipment. Now we used to know that what has been missing there, what kind of equipments are available, what kind of contents are available, and what is not available. So we were in 2018-19 period, we were in a kind of a confusion that what product, when we want to go into consumer directly, what kind of product is more likeliness will be having. So we did a very small experiment with the school kids. And what we did is that we used some virtual money, and we created three different type of solutions for a particular content. One was creating YouTube videos. Another was creating some educational hands-on kits for that. And we created one AR module also for that. So AR learning module. So with this experiment we did with around 100 kids in 3 different schools, what we realized is that everyone was excited about getting something on AR, but no one was able to even spend their virtual money on that AR program because they were considering it to be free, and everyone was willing to purchase something tangible, something like the kit that we have created, or maybe a game that is hands-on. So we realized there's a difference between what comes at a wow and what comes at a wow along with someone, a user is able to pay for that. A very small experiment that took us not more than a month helped us to start working on the consumer related kits, which is a very key differentiator for us as on today when we are launching it. So the decisions backed with the data and backed with the small experiments can be really strategic and helpful in the long run. This is one of the experience I would like to share.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Kunal, you briefly, in a way, mentioned that, but what was that key trigger for you so that you focus more on the US market, or anything that you would want to share?
Yeah, so I think the word for me is actually this: focus. And when we started, we had three kinds of products. We had board games, we had worksheets, and we created an app. And a lot of effort and attention, like what Sharad was saying, was going into all three products. And the app also, app was something which was very closer to both me and Gunjan. We wanted to build this, and so on. uh, we realized over a period of some months that while people are downloading the app, they're not paying for the app, but board games are getting purchased left, right, and center. We are getting almost like 95% of our revenue from this, and so on. We still continued with all the three products, but at some point in time, like Kinar was also saying, you are on borrowed time, borrowed money. We decided, okay, we'll take a very strong decision. Sabse paisa aa raha hai, to bhi we are going to cut down on the other two pieces. We actually stopped paying any attention to the other two products. We almost removed them from the market. And we said that, we are going to put all our energies on the board game. The board game took us to US, and we continued to put all our energies in a narrow market of US. So board games and US, and we did not look at India or any other market. And we just said, let's continue to focus on the US market, US consumer, and so on. To the extent that during the lockdown, there was a temptation that let us relaunch the app, which is already there. It's a great product. It had good reviews and everything. Let us relaunch. But we again stuck back and said, the bandwidth that we have is limited. Let us continue to do what we are doing. So my biggest advice or learning is there is a deep value of focus. Do not be in two boats at the same time. It is an impossible journey for a startup. So that's my advice.
Well said. Binayak, in your case?
Yeah, so for us, the biggest strategic decision that we as an organization had to take was moving from the type of revenue source that we have. So we initially started with, you can say, a B2C, a revenue model, and which we thought of, scaling up using, the money which is being invested by investors, obviously. So, as we were scaling up in our journey, what we had realized that the markets that we were catering to would not help us, build an enterprise based on an economies of scale model. So that was the first the biggest strategic decision that we had to take as an organization, is to shift from the very basic revenue model from a B2C and move to a B2B model. So there, as an organization, we had a very, big decision to take, like, should we move out from the geographies that we were catering to, or shall we, continue with where we are doing, like where we are implementing our programs currently. So there, I think the big call that we took was obviously, which I mentioned before, to move or shift to a B2B model and not charge the end users for the programs that we are implementing. Because our organization is mission aligned, and we did not want to move out of the very mission that we had thought of, reaching out to children from under-resourced communities. We definitely faced challenges in implementing the initial model that we have, but right now, as we have shifted focus and as we are slowly scaling up, what we have realized was that this a strategic decision that we as an organization and as an overall team that we took, has given us a lot of advantage. So if I have to give my 2 cents of advice to people, it's that let's be bold in taking a call, and let's not be so much, uh, it's something known as a founder syndrome, wherein you are too much attached to what you are doing initially, and the thing of not moving out and not learning from mistakes is where I feel any founder or any organization should be operating. So yeah.
Okay, awesome. Gopi, in your case?
Yeah, I would possibly say three things, and one is possibly the biggest, which is that we're going to fail and get it wrong a lot more times than we're going to get it right. So which means possibly you're going to get it 10 things wrong and one thing right. So it's about having the heart to fail 10 to 11 times. And when I say fail, I don't mean fail as a business, a wrong decision, a wrong hire, a wrong partner, a wrong investor. I can virtually write a book on what all things can go wrong. But at the same time, if 2-3 things go right, things kind of dramatically change. I remember, there used to be a cricketer called Craig McDermott, which used to be an Australian fast bowler. And he used to just come and bowl in Melbourne and Perth and, 30 overs and 4 wickets and 30 overs and 5 wickets. But when he came and bowled in Chennai, 80 overs and 3 wickets. And sometimes, in Kanpur, 60 overs and 2 wickets. Now, when you see the stories of many, many companies, you see, okay, 30 overs and 4 wickets. But that's not the way business pans out. It's going to be 80 overs and 4 wickets. And when you actually went back and asked McDermott, what's your best spell? Keep coming back. So that's one. So if it's not for the weak hearted, so you are going to make a lot of mistakes. Don't be critical. Keep moving on. That's one. Second, which we learned the hard way, is that what we value internally is not what the customers value. What the customers value is totally different. I remembered we built this wonderful product with A plus B, and we offered. And in our own mind, we had kept A as 90% of the price and B as 10% of the price, and we offered it to the customer. And the customer was actually valuing the features ulta. He was actually valuing the B 90 and A as 10, because A is where all the engineering thinking went in, research went in, hard yard went in. And he said, boss, masala dosa mast hai, lekin banda chutney ke liye masala dosa kha raha hai. तो आके बोलता है चटनी मस्त है, चटनी हमने 5 मिनट टाइम बताया. But it doesn't matter, at the end of the day you're selling dosa and chutney. So the second part is what the customer values is sometimes is very different from what you value internally as an engineering research firm. So these are two things. Have a big heart. A lot of things are going to go wrong, but a few things that go right will take you off. Second is be close to the customer. What he values is more important than what you value.
Yep. Awesome. And Saurabh, which was the most impactful decision or strategic decision that you took?
That's a very tough question, because I typically believe that it's like series of decisions or series of things that actually make you successful or failure in a longer run. So one specific decision is very hard to pinpoint. But in last few months, we did realize there are a couple of such things that we did which actually helped us a lot. I will actually take a leaf out of Kunal's book only, and the way Kunal said that focus is damn important. I think it's a cliched thing, right? I mean, everyone will say focus, but why focus is so hard? Because as an organization, you want to do various things, right? I want to become like a good employer, right? I want to pay everyone a good salary. I want to give them work-life balance also. At the same time, I want to treat my customer as kings also. I want to be like Google of product development or Apple of launching products, etc. But you can't do all of these things. When you're running a startup, think of it like there'll be fire at 100 places in your house, and you can only douse 1 or 2 at a time just to survive and sustain yourself. So just elaborating around focus, at certain point we realized that we have to choose our North Star metric properly, and then build our entire company around that. It's not that your product is trying to do one thing, your marketing is trying to do another thing, your sales funnel or your sales reps are trying to pitch something else. your entire company has to be around one specific thing. And when we decided, that specific thing is growth for us, the North Star metric, right? I will not dive into more details of it, but then we started actually organizing everything around that. And we had to let go several really good things that a business would think that we should have, right? It could be like profitability. It could be things like, which everybody is telling you, maybe NPS also. So when we realized that we have to focus only on this one thing, and the entire organization have to work only around this one thing, we actually started seeing like 100% month over month growth on our North Star metric over like last 5-6 months, which has been a fabulous journey. Again, I mean, it's easier to read, easier to hear, but it's difficult to internalize actually.
Yep. And Khitab has asked a very good question. I'll just add a couple of points around that only. So there is a lot of hope around the new education policy. So what is the impact of new education policy in your business? And generally, why do you see that EdTech can really play a big role in achieving the dream that people would want to do with new education policy? Saurav, we start with you this time.
Well, I would say that I am not one of the most read person on new education policy, so I'll probably pass it.
Okay.
Can I would like to maybe add
any one or two
something.
people. Yes.
Yeah, my 2 cents on this is that my personal analysis on the way the startups grow and the growth of startups anywhere in the world, government policies at the level when we are trying to build companies, maybe at a pre-Series A or a Series B level, very rarely seem to be impacting the decisions we take on a day-to-day basis. It's more about what my end consumer wants. So for an instance, if I'm trying to build courses for K-12 segment, I would not want to look at what the NEP says. And I rarely see even the larger players looking at that to be reactive on, let's say, a month-on-month basis or even a quarterly basis. It is done based on what your end user is asking for. So I've just briefly gone through the NEP policies, and I think it's a catch-up game. The Western world's kind of had a lot of these policy points implemented years ago. We are kind of trying to, as a nation, get there. But I think from a corporate standpoint or a startup standpoint, what Sharad's doing, what Kunal's doing, is addressing so many points that the NEP talks about. Skills beyond academics. Improving your capabilities to build projects, learn on your own pace, and learn on your own time. So all of that is already being addressed by most of us here. So I would just like to kind of encapsulate that in a broad perspective.
Okay. Awesome.
Yes,
Sharad?
Jatin.
Yes, Binayak.
Yeah,
Please.
Jatin. Sorry.
Acha, Binayak, you go and then Gopi, you speak.
Yeah.
Yes, Binayak.
Yes, yeah, Jatin. The national education policy which has come is basically, is you can't say a revolutionary term, but it has certain concepts which is really interesting, and if implemented in the right way, it can really impact students as well as help organizations scale faster. For us as an organization, and basically for any companies or startups which are working directly with the government, like I'll give my example. The national education policy is talking about a foundational literacy and numeracy mission. So wherein the government is talking to improve the learning outcomes of children, because everyone knows that as a country, children are going to schools, but they're not learning anything. And the massive, this pandemic has given us, a stark reality that children have not been reached by EdTech organizations. UNICEF report has mentioned that nearly 250 million children are not getting access to education. For national education policies to be implemented properly, I feel that organizations and startups like us should definitely look into partner with government. But then yes, where will the revenues come from? That is the biggest question that as an organizations would be asking. But if you ask me, if and the national education policy is also mentioning about EdTech being a very big integrator of the education divide that we have in India and might say in Bharat. So yeah, the national education policy is really an exciting thing if you ask me personally, but the implementation is the key over here.
Okay. Gopi, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I think there has been an impact of the NEP on the governmental regulation on my business for sure, because I work closely with universities, and so these policies have helped us in making universities more open and more flexible. So at least from my University Alliance's perspective, it's a welcome move. Yeah, as it's a catch-up game, but nevertheless, it's come on time for us. So that is one. So definitely. Second is, if a young entrepreneur out there wants to identify problem statements today, NEP is a good starting point. Because when you look at the NEP, you'll exactly know where they're taking the government schooling, government college system, the overall education system. So it can be a good read to get your problem statement out. These are my two thoughts on the NEP.
Okay, awesome. Sharad, you want to mention, or we'll just move on to the next series of questions?
I mean, what I would like to add here is that in India specifically, all three components are very important. One is that you work with the businesses, you work with consumer, and you work with the government. And when we talk about working with the government and government's influence on the overall education system, there the education policy plays a very important role. One thing that I would like to highlight here is that the change in the structure mechanism is not something, it looks like something very new has come up, but the division of the education, I'm talking about K-12 level, but how it has been divided now in 6 to 8 and then 8 plus. There is more freedom for students to pursue different type of optional subjects from 6 to 8. And then based on that optional subjects, they can choose their specializations in 9th or 12th. So this brings more openness for parents and more openness for students to choose streams beyond the conventional streams of science and maths. And that is one area of openness in the means of optional subject has been brought in. So now it is up to the market, up to the schools, up to the companies and startups that how we qualitatively bring it so that these policies can be benefited.
Okay, Neeraj has asked an add-on question, but that will need a one-line answer from you only. So the question is, NEP would have a positive impact, negative impact, or a neutral impact in your organization for the next 2 years? Positive. Binayak?
Positive.
Kunal?
I think positive, but India is very small for us. So
it's a neutral one, but positive, neutral plus. Kinner?
Positive.
Gopi?
Very, very positive.
So, Saurav, it has to be positive for you also. They are neutral. Okay, Karthik has asked a brilliant question. I'll just add on to that. So, when you started up, what was the one-line description of your business? And what is it now? Has that changed or it has remained the same? Saurav?
I think it has always been the same for us. And we have been believer that, your business has a core value around which you start, right? So for example, I would say that we want to empower tutors or coaching institute. Now the means of empowering keep on changing, right? Because it depends on the business scenario, strategy. COVID has already, made us make quite a few changes, probably, integrating a tool like live classes, etc., which was not really initially there. But if you think of the core value itself, that kind of remains the same. And around this, you keep on building the business. So you don't do things which are not aligned with this specific value. So if I talk about that value, that is still the same, which is empowering these tutors, coaching institute to teach better and eventually earn more.
Awesome. Saurav, with such a profound answer, it will be very difficult for others to answer.
I don't think so.
Kinner, when you started up, what was the one-line description and what is it now? Anything changed?
So it's kind of stayed the same, but I think there are a lot of differentiations and evolution in the entire let's say approach to solve the problem is evolving. And for us, I think it's there is a bit of learning that has added on to how we are tackling the problem. So we understood in the beginning that when a content creator creates the content, that's the end of it. So give him all tools to create. But ultimately, what you find out, unless he's able to sell it and make a lot of money out of it, it's of no use. And being a white labeled platform, we don't have a central market space to market their programs. So, we understood that it's also an education problem, because you've got to teach all these content creators how do they solve this, how do they start selling more and more, which Shopify had to tackle a long time ago, for teaching people how do you sell online. So I think there's a constant evolution, and on a day-to-day basis, we have to evolve and be ready for the challenge. I think if I could call myself, it won't be the CEO, it will be the CL, or the Chief Learning Officer. My responsibility is to learn and adapt at all times.
Yep. Kunal?
Unlike the two of you, for me, I mean, we were a little more stupid. So for me, everything has changed. When we started, we were trying to solve the content problem. And we had practically built a company out of an Excel sheet that itna bada market hai, so many people, multiply, it seems like a few hundred or 1,000 crores. But more importantly, the problem that we were trying to solve was content. That let us build interesting content for kids. It is only, after having spent actually several days with parents and sitting with them for days at stretch and realizing, oh, you're trying to address maths, but maths, if you look at the entire day of a parent and a child, probably gets spoken like twice. So for me, it's my life. For them, in the entire day, they speak about it twice or thrice. And I gradually realized, what is the problem that we are trying to solve. So the problem is motivation, as a problem that we are trying to tackle. It is not the content problem. There are too many content providers, content is cheap, motivation is a difficult problem to solve, and so on. It has evolved over a period of time, but I would say since the past 3 years, we have stuck to that motivational logic and we have built a little better set of products, everything which is designed around motivation. And that's why I say social math games.
Awesome. Binayak?
Yes. So for us, the core mission that we had as an organization of providing quality education to children from under-resourced communities has not changed. In fact, the thing that we wanted to work on was, and we had a statement when we started that bringing a positive change in the final mile education delivery. So we always wanted to make sure that the implementation is happening right. So from when like ThinkZone started, we were pretty sure that we would never be a content player or never sell products. We wanted to be implementing programs and focusing on improving learning outcomes. So that for the past 5 years that we have, 5 to 6 years that we have been implementing, the core mission has not changed for us.
Okay. Sharad, for you?
Yeah, so for us, I think our story is also quite similar to Kunal. So we had changed a lot. I mean, so we learned a lot with the times, especially our model also. We started as a working with the schools primarily, and then we moved to working with the schools and then working with students directly. But I think one-liners have evolved, and they evolved always as the market requires to hear about your company. But the core problem statement was about making learning fun and interesting, which comes from the hands-on learning. That is something, the core theme behind starting this company, and that is what never changes and will never change. But I think if I talk about one liner, it evolves, and it should evolve, I think, in my opinion.
Yep. Gopi?
I think we've been half intelligent, half stupid, which is directionally our problem statement has remained constant. But there's been a lot of changes when we went closer to the context. So where exactly we're launching a solution, that's kind of happening on an everyday basis. But directionally, whatever we set out, that direction still holds good.
Yep. It's 6:43. We'll finish at 7. I've shared the LinkedIn post where all the panelists are tagged. So in case if you want to ask more questions, you can ask them over LinkedIn, so we can have further discussion outside of this video. So it's 6:40. So typically what we do at all our panels is that we open up a space for panelists to ask questions to each other. Since we are 6 panelists, we'll not do a huge circle, but anybody would want to ask a question to anybody else or to everybody in the group. Sharad, you want to ask any question?
Can I go? Can
Yes,
I ask?
Kunal. Yes, Kunal.
I think I was really intrigued by what Kinnar and Sharad had shared early on. Kinnar, you had used something called not common knowledge, but something different. I think about your digital marketing strategy. Would love it if you share it with all of us. What did you figure out, and how is it still continuing?
Okay, this is so close to heart, and I think it's an evolution in progress. But I'll share the basis of it. So what I figured and found from a lot of people that we spoke to, in a real world, if you were trying to sell a toothpaste, let's imagine it's a large company trying to do that. The first stage would be awareness, and Facebook, by the way, has divided their ad campaigns into three stages. They call it awareness, consideration, and conversion, right? So the first stage is awareness. How do you do that? For a toothpaste, the awareness would be hoardings, television ads. So you're made aware that your toothpaste has salt. There's a new product called toothpaste with a salt. The second stage is consideration. Now the company mobilizes at the point of sale, near the point of sale. So when you're going to make the sale, you'll see those small standees, TVs, or several possibilities of bringing that to your attention again. So you consider buying it. The third stage is conversion. So their sales guys have made sure that through the distribution channels, it's available to buy on the shelf. Now, most of the digital marketers, if you were to ask them, how do they run these three stages on Facebook or other campaigns? And in this part of the world, at least, are going to say that, okay, I have this ad and I'm going to run this ad in the awareness stage, in the consideration, and in the conversion, which could be, let's say, for my platform, sign up for a free trial, if that's the metric I'm tracking. And I repeatedly ask this to a lot of people. This is the common answer you get. So if you were trying to do it digitally, you have to train Facebook, because it knows at what time you're vulnerable to buy something like an ebook or an online course. You have to send a bucket for awareness, which would just warm up people to the idea of that program or that board game that you're selling. Only then, to that group of people who have looked at the awareness, you show the second part, not to everybody, because the other guy is not even aware, and you're trying to tell him buy the game now. So this is just top of the line, one basic fundamental. There's a great book that we've been quoting, and the second part of this knowledge is ads are the only mediums that social media channels want you to use. So they're clipping organic more and more. And I mean, we are on a platform now, but I'm happy to say this is what's happening. So a great book called Sell Like Crazy, talks about this, and we have seen people who utilize ads well are the ones who are able to sell well through our platform or through any platform. So these are two which, when you combine, and this is such a simple thing. So you don't read Ogilvy for advertising. Ogilvy has written a book long time ago, and it's like the Bible of what the fundamentals of consumer behavior and marketing. So when people start, they learn the tool and they think they know marketing. It's not the tool, it's how the consumer journey pans out. So that's kind of one example. I mean, we could possibly do a 1 day session on this, or a few hours, and learn from each other. I'm sure there are tricks that you have cracked.
Awesome. Binayak, you want to ask a question to anybody in the room?
Yeah, so this is a question I think for everyone over here, and we happy to share have to get thoughts from all. I just wanted to understand everyone's perspective and the thought process about choosing. And obviously, I think Kunal mentioned that when they wanted to start out in India, but they have now moved to USA. But my question is like. Why hasn't anyone thought of implementing or selling your products or your programs in say the rural context, in low income markets maybe? And like, was there any conscious decision that as founders that anyone had to take, or like when you started out you are pretty much clear as to where your target market is?
Okay, 1 or 2% can take up this. Sharad, you want to, or anybody would want to take up this?
I can give my 2 cents on this. Sorry, this is again repetition of what I just said. So the first step to define your go-to market is persona. Persona is the keyword in marketing that everybody uses. So by persona, they mean, where does your guy live? What kind of language he speaks? What kind of cars he travels in? Or what's his daily routine? And everything else that you define for your marketing strategy or go to market or your product selling strategy is based on the persona. So you can't, in the beginning, because the money is limited, the time is limited, go after multiple markets. So you choose where do you sit well. And for our product, that persona wasn't the rural, because the language they speak, the kind of custom, the sales advisors that I'd have to talk to them is not what the company was coming out to be. So that's where the conscious decision comes out. And some of the companies who do that, you'll see that even their web pages are written in Hindi or English. because they know that that persona is more comfortable in that or the local language. So you have to change everything based on the persona. That's where we decided.
Yeah, but one point is, in case whenever you wish to venture into that, then Binay could be a go-to person for that.
Absolutely.
Sharath,
So,
Kunal, you want to?
Vinayak, if I could
Yes,
just understand your question one more time. Your question was, are you operating in a low income market? If yes, why? If no, why not? Is that the question?
Yes, you can think of that. And then why was the reason for choosing a particular market
Okay.
you started? Yeah.
See, I don't know, I would call it low income, but definitely we are operating in the lowest revenue realized per ARPU market, the one product that we're doing. For instance, the undergrad, postgrad programs that we're doing, when you, let's say, compare to a market price of 100K or 200K, our programs are 10K and 15K and 25K. So we are substantially operating about 15 to 20% in some cases of the possible price. And this, right from the day one, we've been operating this market because we had volumes and we had a lot of ability to customize and do it in regional languages. So we'd actually build our competency because unlike the kind of highest social economic market, the lowest economic market is very heterogeneous. The highest economic market is fairly homogeneous. So we had built in a lot of tools to handle the heterogeneity from a learning perspective, from a language perspective, from an example perspective, and we chose to operate in this place. And the way you do digital marketing, the way you talk to them is very, very different because regional language is very, very important, or local languages. In fact, as Kinner was saying, we actually have sales advisors or academic counselors who speak in Tamil, Hindi, Telugu, Bengali, Malayalam, and there are a few people who actually do in English. So it's actually a lot of organization behind that's catering for a market like this, and we are operating in one such space.
Okay, Sharath, you want to respond to that? I have my question for you also.
Yes, so I would like to add in here is that there are two aspects of because when we started, we always wanted to go into the rural market. We had even now we have around 45% of our business coming in from low income markets. But I think there are two aspects of it. One is behavioral and one is your business aspect. So behavioral aspect is that in my personal opinion, I have understood that the parents in the low income areas, they are getting influenced based on what is they're more into academic kind of solutions. So our solution was always about co-curricular and extracurricular solution, and the parents who are spending in the low income markets are spending towards mostly tutoring and coaching. So that was one region why we chose to first go into influence more of income group market, and then people are getting influenced based on what they are taking. So for example, just take about the concept of coding classes. It gets popular first in the higher income age groups. Then people get convinced that, okay, this is something also to be learned about. And then they get convinced that I can also learn it. There are two aspects of it, but I think that influence works. And second is the distribution strategy that we use. The distribution strategy of the rural distribution and an urban distribution is very different in terms of it's easier to distribute in the urban side because it's more available online, more digitally available. Then the rural distributions are very different. So I think you have to choose on both balance, and you have to balance both. And then based on that, that's how companies may intend to go into rural, but then end up starting with the urban, and then maybe in their heart they only want to go into rural, and then later on they try to figure out products.
Awesome. It's 6:52. I want to do a couple of so you can give one-line answers to it. Kunal, which is your favorite book which had a profound impact in the way you approach things?
These days it is Psychology of Money.
Okay. Gopi? You'll have to unmute yourself.
Yeah. I'm reading this book on decision-making biases.
Okay. Vinayak?
There was this book by Rashmi Bansal on the Akshay Patra initiative, which is really this has been a good influence on me.
Okay. Sharath?
Content.inc.
Okay. Saurabh?
So I will name two, which I keep on rereading actually. One is Fooled by Randomness. Another one is Blitzscaling.
Yeah. Kinner, you mentioned one. Do you have any other one?
Yes, I'll give two. Becoming Supernatural by Joe Dispenza, and the second one is Talent Code is pretty good. Talent Code and Culture Code both are in a series.
Okay. And which is that one thing you are really super hopeful for in 2021? Kinner, we start with you, Kinner, this time.
Hopeful for?
For your business.
Okay, blitz scaling and raising tons of money. I think those are, the two important metrics for us.
Kunal?
I have a certain revenue milestone. So I think we'll do about 4x of where we are currently. And that's the target.
Gopi? You have to unmute yourself, Gopi. Yes.
I have two major goals for 2021. One is a major revenue milestone. Second is we are looking to launch by the end of this year our AI product in the global market. These are two things I'm looking forward to for this year.
Okay. Binayak?
Yes, first, obviously, as everyone mentioned, is a certain revenue milestone that we have. And second is a sizable government partnership for implementing our programs. Yeah.
Awesome. Sharad?
So last year in 2020, we launched a consumer offerings. So the plan for 2021 is to scale it significantly. There are certain milestones that we have in mind, and then also overseas expansions of the same.
Saurabh?
So we are looking to actually now empower 1 lakh tutors and coaching institutes and make them like serve roughly like 10 million users by end of this year. And during the same process, we also want to accelerate the earning of all this 1 lakh tutors probably by 2x.
And we'll have a lot of early stage EdTech startup founder or aspiring EdTech founders watching this video or would be reading this conversation. So, Saurabh, according to you, what is that one big white space that somebody can really try for if they want to build a good EdTech company? What is that? Unless you want to capture it yourself.
Yeah, that's difficult to answer, right? I mean, I always think like if there was like such an obvious white space, anybody else would come in and fill it quickly, right? Usually, I mean, these white spaces are not directly visible. Somebody has to come through a different route and make
But कुछ तो बताना पड़ेगा, rapid fire है.
So one thing that I have been feeling of late, and don't blame me if I become your competitor like few years down the line, is that I felt like a lot of things being taught today, right, to kids like coding, dance, or I even heard that even MBAs for kids have come in, but a couple of things like are not actually taught to kids these days, and that is decision making in itself, right? Probably some sort of statistical thinking, basic statistical thinking. When somebody is saying that, okay, I interviewed 5 people and 4 of them said, actually, you should go for this. Maybe we should teach our kids that, 5 is a very small sample size. Come on. I mean, you should not be taking a decision on the basis of this only. So maybe those kind of simple things, I don't think we are teaching to kids today.
Okay, very good one. Sharad, one good white space.
I think there is a lot of opportunities in the B2B2C space, which has been very less explored here. So B2C is like there are a lot of consumer companies here and a lot of companies which are working with the schools. I see there is a linkage that can be created because where you can convert your B2B operations into B2C. So I think B2B2C is in the space.
657. Bina, give a one-line answer so that I have one more round. Yes.
I don't have an answer, but
No,
yeah,
कुछ तो बताना पड़ेगा.
yeah. So maybe the market that we are operating in is actually a very sizable market. I think that because say if you look at the low-income population, and obviously it is a tough nut to crack, but I think that's a very big market.
Okay. Gopi, one-line answer. Gopi.
Yeah, tagging revenue to outcomes is a white space.
Okay. Kunal?
I think toy manufacturing. With everything happening in China, Indians could do a good deal if we learn how to make quality plastic products in India. It's a big area.
Awesome. So last question, there are not many questions that I also want to ask, and there are a lot
Jatin, I have to complete this last question's
yes.
idea. So what Saurabh said is a fantastic idea, statistics for kids. So pick that idea, launch an academy using Knorish. You could be $1 million in revenue in your first year.
Yes.
And it's a tangible one. And there are so many others that you could start academies with, get from 0 to $1 million in the first year.
Awesome. I've shared the LinkedIn post where all the panelists are tagged. So in case if you want to ask more question, you can ask over there. So this is the last part. So Saurabh, we will end with you. And the moment you answer that, I'll close this call. So
A lot of
typically
pressure.
ending the Zoom calls is very awkward. So the moment you answer that, I'll close, but I'll come back to you. So we'll start with Kinnar. So the question is, if you were to describe your entrepreneurial journey in one word, 1 or 2 words, basically.
Okay. Okay, that's a really tough one, huh? Learning, excitement. I think that's
Okay. Awesome.
those are the 2 words. Yeah.
The only thing is others cannot take that. That has been taken. Kunal.
Ups and downs.
So actually, we do a series called Startup Roller Coaster. So where the only thing we talk about.
You took my word, Jatin.
Yes, Kobe.
Self-discovery.
Okay, awesome. Taken. Vinayak.
I wanted to use roller coaster ride, but you already mentioned that.
Anything else then?
Learning, someone mentioned. Exciting.
Wow. Sharad?
I use a synonym, so sinusoidal curve.
Good one. Saurabh? Okay, this is Saurabh. Thank you so much, everyone. I'll be just closing this call. So click on the LinkedIn link in case if you want to engage further. Or anyways, you can follow us, all of us on Twitter or social media. Yes, Saurabh, your answer and I'll close the call.
Okay, rediscovering yourself every day.
Awesome. Thank you so